Right now, four of the biggest companies on the planet are making what might be the single biggest financial gamble in modern history. And whether it sparks a true revolution or collapses into a bubble, well, that might all be decided by the year 2026. So today, we're going to break down that exact bet. Take a look at this number, $450 billion. That's not a government budget. It's not a small country's GDP. Nope, that is the amount of cash that four of the world's biggest companies are betting on one single thing: artificial intelligence. I mean, the stakes just could not be higher. We are talking about a gamble so massive that it could either kick off a whole new era of technological growth or trigger a market collapse that would make the dot-com bust look small. Okay, let's really get into this. So to really get what's happening, you have to look at the biggest players in tech. We're talking Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Meta. For these guys, AI isn't just some new product line. It is a fundamental, ground-up shift in who they are as companies. Think about it. For decades, these companies built absolute empires on software and digital services, things you can't really touch. But now, they're pouring unbelievable amounts of cash into physical infrastructure. We're talking massive data centers, custom-made computer chips, and the gigantic power grids needed to run this AI revolution. It is a full-on industrial-scale build-out. So what's the prize? Why are they spending at this historic level? What exactly makes this crazy gamble worth it to them? Well, the potential payoff is just enormous. And it's not just about selling new AI tools and getting that direct revenue. The real magic is how it makes their core businesses, search, advertising, cloud computing, insanely more efficient and powerful. Plus, all this spending fuels a whole ecosystem of other companies. And on a macro level, analysts think it could be a major engine for economic growth. But what if that huge payoff doesn't show up on time? That's where the very, very real risk of a bubble starts to creep in. And believe me, it's a risk that has Wall Street watching every single move they make. And this right here, this slide gets to the heart of the problem. The money flying out the door to build all this stuff is growing way, way faster than the money coming back in from new AI services. And that creates what you might call a very dangerous gap. And we're not talking about a small shortfall here. Some analysts are seriously warning that if this gap doesn't close, the free cash flow, which is basically the lifeblood of any company, could pretty much evaporate for some of these tech giants. I mean, that would be a catastrophic financial crunch. And it's not just about the money on a spreadsheet. There are real-world problems that could totally derail this timeline. Everything from the incredible strain these data centers put on power grids, to regulatory hurdles, to the simple, terrifying risk that the technology just doesn't advance as quickly as they bet it would. So, all of this brings us to a crucial deadline, a single year when the market's patience is pretty much expected to run out. By 2026, these companies are going to have to show some real proof that this massive investment is actually paying off. And this timeline lays it all out perfectly. Right now, we are in the investment phase, where the market is kind of willing to look the other way on the cash burn. But in 2026, that all changes. The spending peaks, the financial pressure hits its absolute maximum, and the story has to change. So here's the bottom line. By 2026, these companies have to prove, with cold, hard numbers, that their AI bets are paying off. The whole narrative of just you wait and see, well, that's just not going to cut it anymore. So how are we going to know if they're actually pulling it off? How can we, sitting here, track their progress? Well, it all comes down to one really important metric. This is the number you need to watch. It's not just about how much total money AI is making, it's about what percentage of a company's new growth is coming directly from AI. That's the number that tells us if this enormous investment is actually paying for itself. And this table right here, this is the finish line for each company. These are the minimum thresholds they have to hit by 2026 to prove their spending is justified. So for Microsoft, AI needs to be the engine behind 35% of all its new revenue growth. For Google, it's a staggering 45%. And this chart, this shows us exactly where they stand today. The first bar for each company is where they are now, and the second bar is that 2026 goal. And as you can see, every single one of them has a pretty significant gap to close over the next couple of years. So based on that data, we can actually rank them, from most at risk of missing their target to least at risk. Amazon right now faces the toughest climb. Meanwhile, Microsoft seems to be in the strongest position to close its gap in time. So in the end, there are really only two ways this can go. Either this historic gamble pays off, fueling a new revolution in tech and profits, or it fails, triggering a really painful correction for what are, today, the most valuable companies in the world. The main thing to take away from all this is that the outcome is far from certain. The clock is ticking, so now you have the timeline to watch, the key metric to track, and you understand the monumental stakes of this technological drama. The only question left is, when those 2026 numbers finally come in, which story will they tell?